Rumors surrounding Mikel Arteta are growing louder, with reports suggesting the manager could soon be on his way out of Arsenal FC. Even more intriguing is the claim that the club may have already lined up a replacement. Another coach holding a Spanish passport, hinting that Arsenal could continue down a familiar tactical path. Meanwhile, change is also looming elsewhere in Europe. Robert Lewandowski appears set to leave FC Barcelona when his contract expires this summer. The striker may remain in Spain, but the badge on his shirt could soon change. Over in Manchester, Michael Carrick is reportedly preparing to make his first major signing at Manchester United FC, sparking speculation about which star could be the next arrival at Old Trafford. At the same time, Real Madrid have reached a decision regarding young Brazilian prospect Endrick, though whether he stays or heads out on loan remains a key talking point. All of this forms part of today's transfer roundup, and the summer drama is only just beginning. If the momentum continues, the coming weeks could deliver even more twists and surprises across Europe's biggest clubs. Meanwhile, the situation at Liverpool FC has become increasingly difficult to ignore. An 18-point gap in the standings doesn't simply represent a bad run of form. It feels like an entirely different postcode. For a club that spent roughly £440 million assembling its squad, Liverpool now finds itself battling in a scramble that resembles a relegation fight rather than a push for UEFA Champions League qualification. Despite the alarming situation, manager Arne Slot appears to be safe in his position. According to respected journalist David Ornstein, Liverpool's owners, the Fenway Sports Group, have already made their decision. Slot will remain in charge, backed by a contract that runs until 2027, along with assurances of financial support during the upcoming transfer window. Behind the scenes, the board has reportedly identified what they describe as clear mitigations for the team's struggles, essentially acknowledging that the problems cannot be placed entirely at the manager's feet. In many ways, they may have a point. Taking over from Jurgen Klopp was never going to be a straightforward transition. The German left behind a dressing room built in his own image, and any successor was bound to face a complicated handover. Rather than a smooth change of leadership, the process has resembled something closer to a controlled demolition. Major departures are already reshaping the squad. Mohamed Salah is expected to leave in the summer, while Andrew Robertson has reportedly confirmed his exit. Even cornerstone figures like Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk, two of the most decorated players of the club's modern era, are beginning to show signs that time may be catching up with them. These aren't minor adjustments. They are the kind of structural changes that force a club to rethink its entire identity. As a result, Liverpool's squad isn't merely transitioning. It's being dismantled and rebuilt simultaneously, all while expectations for results remain sky-high. The current plan reportedly includes 3 to 4 major first-team signings, with a projected net spend of around £150 million. At the top of the shopping list is a wide attacker, a direct response to the likely departure of one of the most productive forwards in Premier League history. Whether any new signing can truly replace that level of output is a question no one at Anfield seems ready to answer publicly. For now, the club continues to present the situation as part of a long-term project still under development. That explanation could mean Liverpool genuinely believes in a carefully planned rebuild. Or it may simply reflect the reality that dismissing a manager less than 2 years into the job would look worse than backing him and attempting to solve the problems through investment. With Fenway Sports Group, the truth is probably somewhere between those two explanations. Elsewhere, Manchester United FC are reportedly exploring an ambitious move for Sandro Tonali from Newcastle United FC. The situation becomes even more interesting when considering the future of Manuel Ugarte at Old Trafford. According to reports from Football Insider, United are considering including Ugarte as part of a potential deal, a move that would allow them to offload a player who has struggled to adapt while simultaneously lowering the overall transfer fee, which is reportedly approaching 9 figures. From a strategic standpoint, it's an elegant solution on paper. 2 problems addressed in a single transaction. United have apparently lost confidence in Ugarte, who never fully adjusted to the speed and physical demands of the Premier League. The decision to move him on this summer has, by some accounts, already been made. What remains uncertain is where he will end up. Newcastle are among the clubs monitoring the situation, though several other teams are believed to be interested as well. Ugarte himself is keeping his options open, and there is even a possibility that he leaves England entirely. Newcastle's position in the potential deal is far more complicated. The club is watching its hopes of a top-half finish gradually slip away, and qualification for European competition next season is beginning to look increasingly unlikely. For a team in that position, negotiating leverage tends to weaken, particularly if a key player might already be considering a move. Tonali, entering what should be the peak years of his career, may not be willing to spend that time waiting for Newcastle to re-establish themselves in the upper tier of the table. Participation in the Champions League could prove decisive in any decision about his future. Manchester United are currently presenting themselves as a club capable of finishing in the top 5 and returning to Europe's premier competition, strengthening their argument as a destination. Whether the financial details of such a deal ultimately align remains uncertain. However, the framework is clearly taking shape. The real question is whether both clubs will be willing to step into that arrangement when the transfer window opens. Meanwhile, in Spain, the future of Robert Lewandowski has become another developing storyline. The Polish striker's contract with Barcelona is set to expire this summer, and as of now, no extension has been agreed, leaving the door wide open for one of European football's most prolific scorers to begin a new chapter elsewhere. The future of Robert Lewandowski is quietly becoming one of the most intriguing situations in European football. There has been no official announcement from FC Barcelona about a contract extension, and according to reports from Fishages, Atletico Madrid have already started positioning themselves behind the scenes. Rather than making a loud public move, the Madrid club has reportedly opened discreet communication with Lewandowski's representatives, not to finalize anything immediately, but to establish early contact and signal their interest. The logic behind Atletico's approach is brutally simple. In the modern transfer market, clubs routinely spend 60 to 70 million euros on top strikers. But if patience allows you to sign a player of Lewandowski's caliber for nothing just a few months later, the financial incentive becomes impossible to ignore. For Atletico, it's less about rushing into negotiations and more about quietly preparing for an opportunity that could arrive very soon. However, Barcelona still hold an important card in this situation. Lewandowski's current contract reportedly contains an automatic one-year extension clause, triggered if certain performance targets are met. The exact criteria remain undisclosed, but the existence of that clause changes everything. If Barcelona decide to activate it, Atletico's hopes of landing the striker on a free transfer would disappear overnight. If they choose not to trigger it, the door opens wide for Diego Simeone's side to secure one of the most clinical forwards of the last decade without paying a transfer fee. Because of that clause, the situation resembles less of a traditional transfer pursuit and more of a carefully controlled waiting game. Atletico are not rushing forward. They are hovering patiently, watching to see whether Barcelona decide to pull the lever or leave it untouched. Their interest is not difficult to understand. While Diego Simeone has built teams famous for defensive discipline, Atletico's real issue this season has been at the other end of the pitch, creating and converting chances. Lewandowski, even at 37, remains a forward with elite positioning, ruthless finishing, and the ability to elevate an entire attacking unit simply through his presence in the box. From a tactical standpoint, he fits Atletico's needs almost perfectly. Yet one crucial question remains: what does Lewandowski himself want? At this stage of his career, players rarely chase long-term projects. They chase certainty. Barcelona, despite their financial turbulence, still offer him the spotlight and the status of a central figure. Atletico, on the other hand, would offer a club built for title fights, the unwavering trust of Simeone, and a dressing room accustomed to grinding out victories in the toughest moments. Whether that trade-off appeals to Lewandowski may ultimately depend on Barcelona's decision regarding that extension clause. Meanwhile, another storyline is developing in the transfer market around Marco Senesi. The AFC Bournemouth defender could be available on a free transfer this summer, and his situation has attracted serious attention across Europe. Reports suggest that Manchester United FC, Tottenham Hotspur FC, Chelsea FC, and Juventus FC are all monitoring the Argentine centre-back as the end of his contract approaches. According to Give Me Sport, Manchester United have already opened active discussions with Senessy's representatives. The 28-year-old defender has accumulated more than 110 appearances in the Premier League, a level of experience that holds real value in a market where adaptation to English football often proves difficult for new arrivals. Free transfers are often marketed as clever business by clubs, and sometimes that description is accurate. But the reality can also be more complicated. Free does not always mean risk-free. Sometimes it simply means other teams have already passed on the opportunity. The key question surrounding Senesi is which version of that story Manchester United believe they are writing. At first glance, the squad depth argument is not entirely convincing. United already possess a sizable group of central defenders, including Harry Maguire, Lisandro Martinez, Matthijs de Ligt, and Lenny Yoro. Adding another centre-back to that mix would not necessarily solve a problem. It might simply create a new one in terms of playing time and squad balance. Unless, of course, United are preparing for departures before the transfer window closes. Considering the club's recent history of reshaping its squad, that possibility cannot be dismissed. What Senesi does bring to the table aligns neatly with Manchester United's evolving recruitment priorities. He already understands the tempo and physical demands of Premier League football. He is comfortable in possession, and he would require little to no adaptation period. In that sense, he represents a low-risk addition capable of stabilizing the squad while the club focuses its major investments elsewhere. Whether such a move would significantly transform United's performances on the pitch is another question entirely. But not every signing is meant to be transformative. Sometimes a player is brought in simply to maintain structure and depth while the club pursues bigger targets. Elsewhere, a younger name is beginning to attract attention in the market. Marc Casado, a product of Barcelona's academy system, could potentially leave the club this summer. According to Tutto Mercato Web, the midfielder has slipped toward the fringes of the squad, and Barcelona are quietly evaluating their options. Interest in Casado is already forming from multiple directions. Clubs from Saudi Arabia are reportedly monitoring the situation, while several teams in the Premier League are also keeping a close watch. As is often the case with Barcelona in recent years, the club's stance appears pragmatic. If the right offer arrives, they may be willing to let him go. The Saudi Pro League has inevitably entered the conversation surrounding Marc Casado. In modern football, that option seems to appear in almost every transfer discussion. However, for a player at Casado's stage of development, a move to Saudi Arabia would represent more of a final destination than a stepping stone. Riyadh may offer financial rewards, but it rarely serves as the place where a young player rebuilds or elevates his reputation. The global football community still follows the league with curiosity rather than genuine competitive scrutiny. The Premier League, on the other hand, presents an entirely different kind of opportunity. For clubs in England, Casado's background makes him an intriguing option. Having developed within the demanding tactical environment of FC Barcelona's academy system, he carries the hallmarks of that education. Positional awareness, composure in tight spaces, and the ability to circulate possession under heavy pressure. These qualities are highly valued by Premier League teams seeking midfielders who provide technical stability rather than simply raw athletic power. Among the clubs reportedly watching his situation is Tottenham Hotspur FC. Their style of play, built around controlled possession and structured transitions, requires midfielders capable of making intelligent decisions before the ball even arrives at their feet. On paper, Casado appears well suited to such a system. Yet there is a lingering uncertainty that always accompanies players emerging from Barcelona's famed production line. The academy consistently produces technically gifted footballers, but not all of them manage to replicate that success once they leave the carefully structured environment of the club. English football, with its relentless pace and physical demands, has a reputation for exposing players whose composure was never truly tested at the highest level. For potential suitors, the decision becomes a classic question: calculated gamble or quietly brilliant piece of recruitment? Meanwhile, another young talent has experienced a dramatic shift in fortune. Endrick initially moved to Olympique Lyonnais on loan in January because opportunities at Real Madrid were scarce. What followed was a remarkable run of form. In just 16 appearances, the Brazilian forward delivered 6 goals and 6 assists, turning what seemed like a temporary solution into one of the most effective squad management decisions the club has made this season. According to Mario Cortegana of The Athletic, Real Madrid have now made their stance absolutely clear. Endrick will not be leaving the club this summer. The decision was reportedly taken internally long before outside clubs had a chance to express serious interest. Any potential offers have effectively been shut down before they could even materialize. This marks a notable shift from earlier expectations. Members of Endrick's entourage had been quietly preparing to assess their options once the season ended, anticipating that multiple clubs might submit proposals. A review of his future seemed likely. Instead, Real Madrid intervened and made their intentions unmistakable. That clarity appears to have settled the matter. With Gonzalo Garcia expected to depart, the attacking hierarchy becomes easier to understand. Endrick is set to step directly into the role of backup center-forward behind Kylian Mbappé. In the span of just a few months, he has gone from struggling to break into the matchday squad to becoming the immediate alternative to the club's most prominent striker. His productive spell in France has clearly strengthened Madrid's confidence in his readiness. The club invested heavily when they first signed him from Sociedad Esportiva Palmeiras, and his performances at Lyon have provided the evidence they needed to justify that belief. For Real Madrid, the conclusion is simple. Endrick's future lies at the Santiago Bernabéu. Elsewhere, the pressure is beginning to mount around Mikel Arteta at Arsenal FC. Despite collecting 70 points and remaining alive in European competition, the atmosphere surrounding the club has grown noticeably tense. According to Mundo Deportivo, Arsenal's leadership has started evaluating the situation more critically, particularly with the club's trophy cabinet still lacking recent additions. The dynamic at the Emirates has evolved. Over the past several seasons, the board has invested heavily in building a competitive squad and has repeatedly extended patience while the project developed. Now, however, expectations are shifting. With another campaign potentially ending without silverware, that patience may be approaching its limit. One name already circulating as a possible successor is Cesc Fabregas.